Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 454, June the 7th, 2018, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, so I guess today the big news of the day is, I guess what we're all wanting to find out is what did they learn from that little interview with Bill Priestap? And so I scanned through all my normal sources to try to dig that out. And of course, they're not going to say a whole lot. A lot of the things that they talked about were classified, I guess you would say. For instance, asking about the trip to London. Catherine Herridge did ask Meadows when he came out of the hearing room about that, and he said he couldn't talk about it because it's classified. I understand that. But just going through some of the various news sources, and here's what we have learned from everything that went on with the interview with Bill Priestap. The first most alarming thing that we learn about that comes from The Hill, thehill.com, where thehill.com tells us that unbelievably, if you can believe this, that there were only three people from those two committees. It was a joint committee that was supposed to be interviewing Priestap, of which you're talking there's 25 or so members on each committee. That's about 50 people. Only three showed up to interview Priestap. The three were Jim Jordan, thank God, Mark Meadows, a good man, and then a Democrat named Krishnamurthy. Never heard of the guy. They were the only three people asking Priestap questions. Very alarming, considering the two heads of those joint committees was Goodlatte and Gowdy. Goodlatte and Gowdy weren't there. Nor was Gates or DeSantis. Don't know why. Maybe they worked out a deal. Maybe they were busy. It's hard to say, but Congress was on recess last week, and they've known about Priestap coming to testify for 2 weeks or more. If it were me, you would not have been able to keep me out of that hearing room from showing up and asking some questions. Now, maybe Gates and DeSantis and Goodlatte and Gowdy and all the rest got together with Jordan and Meadows and said, okay, we don't all have to be there, but here's my questions, and here's my questions, maybe they all got their questions, they gave them to Jordan and Meadows to let them ask, so that they didn't all have to be there. But it's pretty unusual to have someone who's as key of a witness as this to show up to testify and have so few people there. 3 people. That's extraordinary. And I can only guess that it's either because Jordan and Jordan and Meadows met with the other guys, who are the good guys in this thing, and they said, yeah, we don't all have to be there. Here's our questions. Just make sure you ask this, this, and this. Okay, I can understand that. I could deal with that. But there's also maybe the thought that maybe some of them said, well, Priestap is going to come in. He's only going to tell us basically what he's already told the IG, and when the IG report comes out, we're going to learn about it anyway. But, I just don't know if I put much weight in that, because they're really, the IG report's going to deal with the email situation, and then there'll be a week or 2, 3 down the road, we'll get the surveillance, the FISA court issue that Horowitz looked at. But there's many other issues that Priestap would be questioned about. Beyond that, way beyond that. So I don't know. I'm just I have no explanation for why so few people and only 2 of the good guys would show up to interview Priestap when he's seemed to me such an important witness to talk to. He was Strzok's boss. He's essentially the number 2 man at the FBI. I mean, you can say it's McCabe, but the chief of counterintelligence is almost equal to the FBI director. They're kind of very close, 1 and 2. So I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I assume in the next couple of days, some of these other guys, Goodlatte and Gowdy and others, will be asked. Gates and the rest will be asked why they didn't attend the hearing, and we can let them explain that to us. But I would like them to explain that to us, because quite honestly, I'm a little baffled that a witness that they've wanted for all these months. I mean, man, we got to get Priestap. We got to get these guys. And then you get the guy and nobody shows up but 3 guys? Well, there's an issue with that, and I don't know what it is yet. Now, we are also learning that from The Hill that ABC News has been given a brief of the draft of the IG report. Now, this is probably for propaganda purposes. So here are some things that, based on ABC having received the brief of the draft, here are some of the things that they are putting out there, which is being picked up by other media outlets and being reported on. They're saying that the IG report will state that Comey overstepped his authority as FBI director. You see, when I start hearing phrases like overstepped his authority, you see, overstepped his authority is not a crime. You know, we know that there were crimes committed. I don't really need, someone to tell me that he overstepped his authority. I didn't need a 16-month investigation by the IG to tell me that he overstepped his authority. I already knew he overstepped his authority. We knew that when he came out and, and exonerated the rotten Reverend Clinton for transferring thousands of emails onto a private server intentionally, which he said she didn't do intentionally. No, he actually said she was too stupid to know what she was doing. Same thing with why apparently he didn't go after Huma Abedin for sending those emails back to her hubby. She didn't realize what she was doing. What? These people are too stupid to know? Come on, man. It's not going to fly, but that's what ABC is putting out there. And again, these little phrases, he overstepped his authority. Gonna have to do way better than that. That's not going to work. Not going to work for me. Probably isn't going to work for most of you. And no, they're going to have to do way better than that. Also, regarding Loretta Lynch, ABC is saying that Loretta Lynch's handling of the Clinton email case was rebuked by Horowitz. Yeah, I guess so. She met on the tarmac with the husband of the target of the investigation. And it was supposed to be a secret meeting. We only learned about it because someone, a security guy or cop or somebody down there at the airport, saw it, heard about it, and leaked it. It was supposed to be a secret meeting. It was planned. They didn't just bump into each other on the tarmac. No more than Papadopoulos bumped into Mr. Downer. These were not accidents. And of course, we got the emails from the DOJ and the FBI, heavily redacted. Hopefully we'll get the unredacted version of that. But just from the redacted stuff that we saw, it was pretty obvious that when they learned about the Comey Lynch meeting, which they probably already knew about at the DOJ and the FBI, certain people probably knew or didn't care. It was obvious in the email conversation that they were never bothered by the fact that they met on the tarmac. That didn't bother them at all. The only thing that concerned the FBI and the DOJ was who was the one who leaked it, who made it public. We got to get that guy. Remember that? We got to get that guy. Who's that guy? Who leaked that? Find that guy. Where is he? Who's that guy? Get that guy. That's all that they were talking about. Not a single word. There was nothing. Oh my God. She met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac? Oh my God, that's horrible. No. That didn't bother him at all. So, rebuked. Horowitz is going to rebuke. What is rebuke? How about charge with crimes? They're going to have to do way better than this, folks. It's not going to fly. My blood pressure is going up. You know what happens when that happens? F-bombs. Okay, I'll try to resist. ABC also saying that the IG has concluded that James Comey defied authority at times during his tenure as FBI director. Also, that Comey was insubordinate. You see, defied authority, well, I mean, that could be a crime. It's just the way that they phrase it doesn't make it look very much like a crime. He was insubordinate. Again, could be a crime, but when you use words like that and phrases like that, it sounds like you're softening up the situation. It's like guy goes in and robs a bank at gunpoint. And you could float that story. Yeah, well, the guy, was on the way to the gun store to get a new firing pin, and he stopped by the bank and grabbed a little walking around money on the way. So we're going to have to dig into this a little bit. and find out exactly why some of these guys didn't show up to the hearings, what the reason was, what the plan was or wasn't. And we're just going to have to see the IG report come out. We know that Rodenstein is there right now sanitizing it. We know that Rodenstein is probably sitting there redacting, along with No Shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, are sitting there redacting about 90% of it. But it's not going to work. All this does is drag it out, which is maybe the plan. I mean, they know all this is eventually coming out, but maybe they think if they drag it out over a long enough period of time, eventually people will get bored. In a couple of weeks of hearing bits and pieces of drips and drops, people eventually become immune to it. And then when they start dropping really major criminal activities that happened, people will be, again, they'll be practically immune to it. It's like, oh, what did he do? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, they've been talking about this stuff for months. This is old news. What's happening now? You see, it's just another tactic used by the deep state to deceive. It's not going to work. No way. No way. Not letting them get away with it. Not this time. We let them get away with it on November 22nd, 1963. That's how we ended up with all these other events that followed that, including this one. If we don't stop them this time, if we let them get away with it this time, what do you think happens next? Where does it end? When they know that they can pull off a stunt like this, get caught red-handed, and walk away clean, what does that say? Can't let it happen. Let's move on to something else. Charles Grassley sent another letter to the DOJ, angry letter, by the way, which I read. It's on Conservative Treehouse if you want to read it. Angry that the response to his previous letter, requesting documents on the Michael Flynn. He's suggesting that he's requesting documents on Michael Flynn. And he's saying that the previous response from the DOJ was insufficient. So Grassley says in the letter that the Congress has a right to know the full story and know it now. Grassley wants the transcripts of Flynn's call with Kislyak. He also wants the notes from the FBI interview with Flynn. Now, the DOJ is basically telling Grassley in their first letter back to him that it may interfere with the investigation. This is bogus. The investigation's over. It's been over for 5 months. Flynn pled guilty. And he's awaiting a sentencing hearing, which has now been put off because the judge in the case wanted to see the scope memo, which he's reviewing, Judge Ellis. At some point, he'll make a ruling. But in the meantime, it's in limbo. But there's no more investigation. That's been over for a long time. The case is over. Sentencing date has been set. Then it was postponed because the judge requested to see the scope memo. So now it's in kind of a holding pattern. But there'll be no more investigation. It's over. There's no reason. This is a closed case. How can the DOJ deny sending this to Grassley when it's a closed case, saying it might interfere with an Is there another investigation going on that we don't know about involving Michael Flynn? No. It's just hardcore stonewalling. And it's got to come to an end very, very soon. My patience, I'm running very, very low on patience. Now let's go take a look at the Gateway Pundit and see what they have to say. Well, the Gateway Pundit, again, they're writing that Comey defied authority and was insubordinate. So, okay, the talking points are obviously coming out of ABC because they were the ones that were given this brief of the memo or of the IG report, or at least was a version of it. So, for some reason, they decided to provide ABC with that and not everybody else, and we're getting the ABC talking points. Now, I don't know if this is exact wording that's in the IG report or if this is ABC putting their own spin. It's hard to say until we actually see the IG report, which I'm sure will be heavily redacted because Rodenstein is sitting there redacting the whole damn thing right now, along with his buddy, no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray. They got their black markers out, and they're, oh, we can't let them hear about that. Not this, maybe 9 months from now, maybe. And that's the plan. They know it's all going to come out. The only thing they can do is delay it and fight for every single word of 1 billion words. Maybe we'll all be dead before we finally learn what happened. I don't think so. I've got some ideas. We're also learning now today, this is also in the Gateway Pundit, that the Obama administration secretly gave Iran access to the U.S. financial system. They're under sanction, and they were booted off of the international financial system, the ability to move money, which is a system we control. So they were under sanction, kicked off that, but apparently it looks like the Obama administration gave them some sort of a waiver. The Obama administration secretly gave Iran access to the U.S. financial system after striking the nuclear deal. Obama administration issued a special license to Iran in February of 2016 that allowed Iran to convert $5.7 billion it held in a bank in Oman. It was in the form of rials. That's a currency that the Arabs use in North Africa. They allowed them to convert those rials into euros by first exchanging them into dollars, which is typically what you have to do. Everything typically exchanges through dollars. It's always the middleman in a currency thing. You always go from whatever your currency is to the dollar and then to whatever else you're going to. That's how it usually works because everything's based on the dollar. Now, this actually, believe it or not, during some congressional hearings, several people within the Obama administration regarding the Iran deal were asked if anything like this took place. Was there any type of special consideration given to Iran in regards to unfreezing their money? So obviously someone heard about this, got wind of it. And the response back from the Obama administration was no, which means they lied. Because now we know they did. Unbelievable. No question about it, the Obama administration, the most corrupt administration. When this all comes out, and it will, Obama will have been seen as the most corrupt president to ever held the office, and it's not even close. It's not even close, my friends. Not even close. And we've had some corrupt presidents, my friends. There was nothing like what Obama and his people did. Just absolutely unbelievable. So the Gateway Pundit is now also reporting that Paul Ryan has commented in now and saying that he agrees with Trey Gowdy that the FBI did nothing wrong by putting spies into the Trump campaign. Well, apparently, when some members of the Freedom Caucus heard this, they had a meeting, an emergency meeting, and they're now trying to organize to oust Paul Ryan, even before he voluntarily steps down after the I guess he would officially leave in 2019. After the, midterms and they finish out the last quarter, and then I guess the start of the new year, I guess that's when Paul Ryan's expecting to leave. But now, based on these comments he's made, it looks like they want him gone before then, as soon as possible. And that's good. That's very, very good. The sooner you can get rid of Paul Ryan, the better. And let's make Jim Jordan the speaker. How about that? That would speed up the process. Big ears, Paul Ryan, Eddie Munster. Shouldn't surprise us at all. So the Gateway Pundit also is reporting on the IG report, saying that the IG report will show that Loretta Lynch was determined to hide evidence of Hillary's wrongdoing from the American people. Yes, that's called obstruction. Obstruction. That's called a crime. It's a crime. Just like the crimes that Comey committed, and McCabe, and Strzok, and Page, and all the rest, including Pre-Step. Here's another story you'll like. Andy McCabe is outraged. He's outraged by the DOJ leaks about his criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office. McCabe's outraged about the leaks. Oh my God. He's outraged about the leaks. Boy, it's almost hard to comment on something like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Here he is, leaking stories to the Wall Street Journal. All the other coordinated leaks that he was involved in, along with his buddy Peter's been stroking us, and he's upset about the leak about a criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And he demands an investigation. Right. Yeah. He's going to investigate that, Andy. So, I know a lot of you are probably feeling a little depressed. I know, even I am a little bit. But, again, these are stall tactics, delay tactics. This is how it's always been, and it's going to be this way until at some point the bottom falls out and it just simply isn't possible to do anymore. But it does not... But you're still frustrated. It doesn't make it any easier. Yeah, we understand what's going on, but that doesn't make it any easier to swallow. But the reason I'm optimistic, and I know a lot of you in my comment section where I read there, you're pessimistic. You don't think any of these guys are ever going to be held accountable, and you very well may be right. I have a different view. I think that a lot of these people will be held accountable, and a lot of people are going to jail. And I believe that because, number one, you have a lot of journalists who are dug in on this story, following this story. Good journalists. Sarah Carter, Paul Sperry, John Solomon, and many others who are locked into this story, and information keeps coming out, and it will keep coming out. It will just be a matter of time before we get to the point where they simply cannot stretch it out or drag it out any longer. They are going to, at some point, are going to have to act. In other words, indict people, have a real investigation, start subpoenaing witnesses, convene a grand jury. Maybe Mr. Huber's doing all this behind our back. Maybe Jeff Sessions is doing some things behind that we don't know, behind the scenes. Maybe he's being quiet about it. I don't know. Maybe, but I'm not a betting man in this case. I wouldn't want to bet even a nickel on Sessions or Huber. Not going to work for me. But I certainly know that a lot of good journalists are working on the story, and they're not going to let go of it. Not as long as new information keeps coming out, and it will. So that's one reason why we should be optimistic. Another reason is that the President of the United States wants the truth out. I mean, it's not like the President's sitting there trying to help in the cover-up. Trump wants the truth out, and he's every bit as frustrated, if not more, than all of us. And he has a card to play that I'm about to tell you about here in a minute. Believe me, he has a card he can play, and I'm about to tell you about it. Let's also remember there's 60 million Trump supporters who are well aware of exactly what went on. I'd say at least half. Millions and millions and millions of Trump supporters who know what's going on, and they're as angry as we are. And they're not going to let go of this. But it's like I've said to other people in the comment section, it is going to take public pressure. And even, Gates and some of these other people, Jordan, even they've said, and that's the reason they go out and do these interviews on TV, because they know a lot of times it takes public pressure to make these people do the right thing. So that's why we have to keep applying pressure. And so if you find a spare moment during the week, call your senator, call your congressman, let them know, that you're not happy. If you haven't seen them standing up and fighting for the president, standing up and fighting to get a special counsel to get to the truth about what happened, they attempted a coup of a president. And if you're not happy with the way your senator or representative is handling himself in that regard, give him a call and let him know. It's public pressure that's ultimately going to force them to do the right thing. They won't do it on their own. It's the swamp. They don't do anything on their own. They only do things when they're forced. And we've got to be the one with our foot in their asses. And we're not alone. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that essentially the general feeling of the pre-step interview, according to, this is from the Daily Caller, is that the general feeling from Catherine Herridge and a couple other reporters who were camped out outside that hearing room is that the pre-step essentially was throwing Peter's been stroking us under the bus. That apparently 3, 4, 5 times pre-step deferred to Peter's been stroking us as having been involved in certain things, making certain decisions. And of course we know that. In fact, pre-step, there's actually a text message in there, a couple texts between Strzok and Page, where Strzok's actually complaining to Lisa Page that he has a conversation with Bill Priestep, and he's telling Bill Priestep something, and Priestep tells Peter's been stroking us. And this is Peter's been stroking us telling Lisa Page. Like, yeah. He's like, Bill said that I'm too much of a busybody. So Bill Priestep even told Peter's been stroking us that he was too much of a busybody and was involved in too many things. So we know that's true, and that's essentially what Priestep has told the people, the three people who showed up to question him on that committee, that in his opinion, he thought Peter Benstrokonus was involved in too many things. He was too much of a busybody. Not that I'm saying Priestep's clean, because I don't think he is. I think he's covering his ass. But clearly, Peter Benstrokonus was thrown under the bus by Priestep in those hearings. And keep in mind, Peter Benstrokonus is still with the FBI, and they're holding on to him too, because they want to keep questioning him. In fact, they just re-questioned him just this past week over other issues that they're now looking into. We also, in the last 24 hours or so, are certainly getting the indication that Andy McCabe is ready to sing. He's looking for an immunity deal. And, of course, my gut response to that is like probably most of you, which is, hell no. Why should we give him immunity now? The IG report's going to be out in a week. What's he going to tell us that's not in the IG report? So I guess it would come down to me. I would have to sit there with his lawyer and McCabe and say, okay, for me to give you immunity, you got to give me something real big. You got to give me Obama. Tell me how you've got the proof that Obama was running the show, knew about everything that was going on, and then you got to tell us what everything that was going on was. You got to lay it all out, brother. You lay it all out, drop the names, show us what documents we need to pull to get the information. You lay it all out, we'll give you immunity. But if you can't do that, pound Sam, brother. That's how I look at it. I'm certain that they won't give him immunity without knowing. Grassley, I can't imagine in my wildest dreams, would just give McCabe immunity just to see what he might tell him. It's not the way it works in an immunity deal. You don't give immunity to someone unless they pretty well tell you what they're going to tell you. You pretty much got to know what it is that they're going to give up. What are you going to get in return for them giving? You're going to give them, it's like, I'm going to give you immunity, but you got to give me something really big because we already got you. Don't tell us something that we're going to learn anyway. He's waited all this time. 2 or 3 months ago, he was going to sue Trump. Now he's looking to cut a deal. He said he would bring down the entire effing thing, burn the entire effing thing down. Well, let's see if he's willing to do that. I'd give him that opportunity. I'd give him a pack of matches and an immunity deal. More on Mr. Potato Head. More evidence, as if we need any more, that he's lying about when he learned about the dossier. And this comes from one of his right-hand men, who just happened to be interviewed for a book that's being written by Isikoff and the guy from Mother Jones, what's his name, that talked to Steele. They're writing a book, and they interviewed one of Clapper's, or one of John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, interviewed one of his right-hand men at the CIA. Let's see what we learn from that. Well, we're learning that this right-hand man of Mr. Potato Head, whose name is Nick Shapiro, he was one of Brennan's stooges at the CIA, has told the Washington Times that Brennan's call to Harry Reid revolved primarily around what Reid knew about Trump and Trump's ties to Russia. And he says that most of the conversation was spent with Reid telling Brennan about what he learned from Democrats and what he learned from the Hillary-financed Steele dossier. Brennan was also in touch with British intelligence, which we know was kept well informed on Steele's dossier by Steele himself. He's the one that told us that he was talking to the British intelligence, keeping them posted on what he was learning. Just more proof that Brennan's a lying dog. He says he didn't learn about the dossier until December 2016. All these things were going on back in the late summer, early fall 2016. This is just unbelievable that Brennan continues to try to say this. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Overwhelming evidence. He's lying his ass off. Unbelievable. Now, as I said, there is another solution here. There's another option on the table. And I know when I say the word, you guys are going to go, oh no. But here it is. Something you guys have heard of before called a presidential commission. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Oh, you mean like the Warren Commission? You mean like the 9/11 Commission? Well, yeah, but no. Yeah, as in like a presidential commission. No, not like the Warren Commission or the 9/11 Commission. Those were, and typically that's what these are used for. Presidents use them to cover up a major crime. But in this case, our president, Trump, will not be doing it to cover up a major crime. He'll be doing it to expose the cover up of a major crime and the crime itself. Because the president can appoint a special commission. He doesn't need to wait for Attorney General Sessions or Rodenstein to appoint a special counsel. He doesn't have to beg them to do it. A president has the authority to appoint his own counsel and put whoever he wants on it. Oh, yes. And he can give them subpoena power and power to look at any document they want without a FISA or without a FOIA. Just like Uncle Bob the executioner doesn't need a FOIA. He can look at anything. Well, a president can appoint a special commission and give them the same authority to figure out what happened in the 2016 election. And that's exactly what I think he should first threaten to do and then do if it doesn't produce the results he's looking for. If he just tweeted out tomorrow, I'm thinking about setting up a special presidential commission, like the 9/11 Commission or the Warren Commission, so that we can get to the bottom of this. Because, again, the president has the full authority to appoint a presidential commission. Doesn't need the Congress, doesn't need the Attorney General, doesn't need the Deputy Attorney General, doesn't need anybody. The president can appoint his own counsel to investigate something. He can give them subpoena power. He can give them the ability to get documents, anything that they want to see without a FOIA. And he can also assign the legal team that works for them to do the legal work, including recommending the prosecutions, which he can appoint he can use a U.S. attorney to do the prosecutions. So, but this commission should be different. This shouldn't be like the Warren Commission or the 9/11 Commission, a bunch of insiders, swampers brought in to cover the crime. No, what Trump should do is bring in people who have no association with the swamp, with the government, or anything else. Plenty of good people across this country who could fill that role. He should bring in historians, former judges, retired military officers, citizens. Oh yeah, citizens. And some businessmen maybe. People with no swamp ties. Get together maybe a 16-person commission, maybe put 3 or 4 citizens on the commission, put a couple retired judges, a couple retired military officers, make sure they're all clean, that they're not partisan, that they're not a part of the swamp, and put together these people, give them full power. And these citizens, what they should do is set up a website where citizens around the country can put their questions to these 3 or 4, however many citizens would be on this panel, to put their questions to make sure that the citizens are represented and their questions are answered. Which didn't happen in the Warren Commission or the 9/11 Commission, did it? No, I'm talking about just the opposite. A presidential commission that he can appoint to actually get to the truth. Not run a cover-up. And they should be looking into the following. Did government officials use their offices, powers, and authority to undermine the administration for political purposes? They should also decide, did government officials involve themselves in a partisan manner to affect the 2016 election? And they should also ask, were foreign governments involved in meddling in the 2016 election? If so, who and how? There you go. This is an option President Trump has when he finally gets to the boiling point, which is pretty much where I'm very, very close to that point myself. Eventually, Trump's going to get there too. And he needs to know, Mr. President, in case you don't know, you have the authority to appoint your own commission. And you get to decide who's on it. You do, Mr. President. And you can give them full subpoena authority. And you can give them a team of lawyers and a prosecutor to prosecute the crimes they find. Should be on the table. Something to think about. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow for more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. Goodbye.